Okay, this is the second video in a three-part video series that is focused on giving you guys recommendations for the Whatever You Want Readathon, which is a month-long readathon hosted by Maddie from Book Browsing Blog. I will have her channel and the announcement video linked down below. I forgot to do that in the last one. I'll go back and edit that. Like I said, this is the second video in a three-part series. You can find part 1 in the cards up above and in the playlist down below. Okay, so for this video, I'm going to be doing recommendations that are by an author of color. So every book in this list is going to be by an author of color, and this will fulfill the prompt to read a book by an author of color or featuring characters of color. So again, this was going to be divided up by genre, much like in the last video, and thus is going to be split up by teams. I will go over a synopsis, the age range, stuff like that, and I'll give you guys some of my thoughts about the books and why I'm recommending them. I will also, in the second slide for each book, have what else it can apply to in regards to prompts and getting points. Okay, sorry, technical difficulties. Enter. Okay, there we go. So first we have Epic and High. This is the Epic and High team. This is for Epic and High Fantasy, and our first rec is one you're going to remember if you've seen the last video. So you can go ahead and skip over this. I'll have a timestamp in the description down below for when I talk about each book. So if I've already mentioned this book in a video you've seen, you can just skip around. This is YA, it is high fantasy, and it is a Snow White retelling, Girls Made of Snow and Glass by Melissa Basharduced. I forgot to say the title and the author. Ha ha ha, I'm so prepared. This is, like I said, a slow burn feminist Snow White retelling. It is one of my favorite books, and it's one of the few books I read during the great reading slump of high school. You know, the reading slump that lasted 3 entire years. It is one of my favorite books. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's hard to explain this book because I cannot remember what is a spoiler and what isn't a spoiler for the book at this point, so I should probably reread the description at some point. I'm not going to do that now, but I should probably do it. This book is centered around relationships between women. They are familial, they are romantic, and they are platonic. It is just about how women love each other, and there's something so beautiful about that. It's also about the restorative nature of love, and I just liked it a lot. It's like a darker fairy tale, but it's not grimdark or anything. It is hopefully dark, if that makes any sense. So the other prompts this applies to is the LGBTQ+, as it is sapphic. It can apply for the team colors for the Epic and High team, and it is Melissa Basharduced's debut. So it can apply to that prompt, which is why you also saw it in the last video. Moving on, I forgot to change the background color for this one. Whatever. This is Melissa Basharduced's sophomore novel, Girl, Serpent, Thorn. It is another YA, it is another high fantasy, and this time it is a retelling of a Persian myth. Now, I don't know the exact Persian myth that it is inspired by or that it is a retelling of, but I do know it is a retelling of a Persian myth. This is about a girl who is cursed with a poisonous touch. And it basically follows her descent into monstrosity as she tries to stop it. I really enjoyed it. I know some people thought it was disappointing. It is like with Girls Made of Snow and Glass. Sorry, the title, they're too similar. It confused me, sorry. Like with Girls Made of Snow and Glass, it is a slow story. It doesn't have a lot of action. There is action in it. There's a few battle scenes and whatnot, but it is mainly a character study, I would say, and it does that incredibly well. The characters are complex and dynamic, and I like them. And I do have some complaints about the book, such as the main character never really embraces monstrosity, or more so, the main character never becomes a truly morally gray figure. I still enjoyed it quite a lot, and I think the monstrosity bit of it is a good allegory for being an outsider, and I am living for it, to be quite frank. Again, this applies to the LGBT plus. It can also apply to team colors, because I think I put that there. No, I forgot to edit this slide. Okay. The only thing this applies to is LGBT plus. I'm very sorry that I forgot to edit this slide. This is why you should go over slideshows before you present them, kids. Okay, next up, also for Epic and High, we have The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart. This is an adult high fantasy. It follows 4 points of view, and they are all, in one way or another, related to politics. So one of our points of view is a smuggler. He is looking for his wife who was kidnapped, and he's on the run from the military. Another point of view is the heir to the Bone Shard Empire, and her as she deals with her amnesia. We have another point of view that is the daughter of a governor of one of the islands in the empire. And another point of view, there's technically 5 point of views, but I remember 4 because one of the point of views is very closely related to the 3rd point of view. So, and then we get a 5th point of view that is of a woman on an island, and she doesn't really have any idea what's going on there. I personally did not care for this book that much. It was a entertaining read. However, I did not really care for any of the characters, and I did not really enjoy the plot. I think if you are someone who likes more slow burn fantasy, who doesn't need a lot of time spent with characters to like them, and not to like them, but who doesn't need a lot of time to get attached to characters, and if you're good with multiple point of view, this is the book for you, because it's not a bad book by any means. It just wasn't the book for me. Okay, I did forget to include this in the last rec because this is the author's debut novel. I think, at least. I forgot to actually look this up and double check. It is also LGBT plus because one of the main characters, 2 of the point of views are of 2 characters that are in a sapphic relationship, and there is disability rep when it comes to the Emperor's daughter and her amnesia. Okay, moving on to Camp Contemporary. This is another title you're going to recognize from the last video. It is You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. It's a YA romantic contemporary that is centered around a young black girl who is trying to become prom queen so she can win a scholarship to college, so she doesn't have to burden her grandparents with that financial responsibility. This is an adorable book. It is light, and it also deals with heavier stuff, but it's balanced incredibly well. And I just had a smile on my face the entire time I read this book, and the characters are so well written. Characters are really the strong suit of this book. They stand out, they're dynamic, they're complex. I highly recommend this book to anyone that is character driven as a reader. Even if you don't typically trend toward the YA contemporary, I do not, honestly. But it is still a good and amazing book. I wanted to say honest, but I don't know why my brain did that. This also applies to LGBT plus teen colors, and it is an author's debut. I forgot to edit this slide. I'm guessing I forgot to edit most of the slides that I featured in the last one now, so that's a bit embarrassing. And it can also work for the reminds you of a pride flag if you would like to do so. This in particular reminds me of the bi flag, but your mileage may vary as to whether or not it reminds you of that flag or not. Next up is the Hana Wars by Yagera. Again, you will see this in the last video as well, so feel free to skip ahead if you have seen me pitch this book already. Or heard me. You can't actually see me right now. Again, this is a romantic YA contemporary, and it's centered around a Bengali lesbian who comes out to her family, and she is not shunned by her family, but she's told to remain in the closet and not really accepted by them. And at the same time, she is dealing with racism at her high school as a group of students begin to appropriate Hana in a competition that the school is hosting. Let's ignore my stutter right there. I think this is a amazing book. It ends on a really hopeful note, and I'm sorry if you consider that a spoiler. I don't. It ends on an incredibly hopeful note. The ending is sweet and cute, and all in all, the romance between these two characters, between Nashat and Flavia, is simply adorable. It's great. I loved it. And even as it is dealing with these heavier topics, it still interjects a hopefulness that I cannot put into words how the hopefulness is such amazing. Sorry, I cannot talk. It's just such a hopeful and light book. It's not light as in like not heavy, light as in bright. It's hopeful and sunny. That's what I'm gonna say. It's a hopeful and sunny book, and if that's something you're in the need for, but you also want it to be tempered with some heavier topics, check this one out. Okay, this also applies to LGBT plus, and it's an author's debut. Again, I forgot to edit this slide. I'm very sorry about that. I am a mess. Okay, this is a new book. It is a YA contemporary, and it is a retelling of Anna Karenina, and that book is Anna K by Jenny Lee. I enjoyed this book. It's so messy. So if you're looking for a messy book, check this one out. So if you know anything about Tolstoy, you're gonna know that his books are messy. So they're about the lives of socialites, and it's dramatic and it's messy, and this book perfectly captures this feeling of that, and I would highly recommend it to anyone that wants to check it out. It is Gossip Girl-esque, and I think you might have some issues with it glorifying the lives of the rich and horrible, but I thought it was a fun, dramatic mess, and if you're looking to go on a ride like that, check this book out. This is another book I forgot to include in the debut video. Very sorry about that. This is, in fact, Jenny Lee's debut book, and this can also fit the team colors for Camp Contemporary. Is it Camp Contemporary? I'm pretty sure it's Camp Contemporary. Let me pull it up on my phone. I do not have a good working memory, guys. This is why I have to do slideshows. This is why I should just include all the information in the slideshows. But you know. Camp Contemporary is in fact blue. So you're good. Yeah. Okay, you're good. I need more energy drink. Oh, very sorry. You just heard that. So, moving on, we have Elastaway by Darcy Littlebatter. That is the first book I'm going to be recommending for Dreams and Drama Queens, that team. This is a team that is focused on magical and fantastical stuff that isn't high or epic fantasy. This is a paranormal romance following a young Lepanapati woman who is trying to get justice for her murdered cousin. It is a So this is not a mystery that is going to surprise you. It's not a mystery that is going to thrill you, but it is a book full of compelling characters and very, very heartfelt and well-written relationships. And that is personally what I look for in a book. I do not care much for thrillers. I have not, in fact, liked a thriller in, I think, a year now. So I have that going for me. But I did really enjoy this mystery. It is just such a, I don't want to say warm book, because it does deal with heavy stuff, but it is a welcoming book, if that makes any sense to anyone other than me. Again, I've probably forgot to edit the slide, just warning you now. I did, yes. Okay, so this also applies to LGBT+, and it is the author's debut, and it was also published by an indie publisher. So, get all those points, guys. Get all those points. Next, we have Labyrinth Lost by Zoraida Cordova. I'm also going to be recommending the next book is going to be Bruja Born, so if you just want to click away, those are two of the new recs. But Labyrinth Lost is a portal/urban fantasy. I did put portal there for a reason, because while Bruja Born is very much centered in New York, this book does take place primarily in another world. And it follows a young Bruja who must rescue her family and finally learn to embrace her powers after her attempt to banish her powers ends up banishing her family. So, I enjoyed this book. It is not one of my favorite books by any means, but it is a fun and compelling read, and if you're a fan of series that follow not one character but a family, this is a good rec for you, because it is a well-written book, it is an entertaining book, and it plays with mythology that you might not be aware of if you are from a primarily white Western background like I am. I swear I had more to say. Anyway, it was a fun, engaging read. It reads incredibly quickly, and just check it out. It's good. It's good, guys. I promise, it's great. The cover. Sorry, the cover you're seeing here is the cover that the paperback is sold in right now. This book has had 3 different covers, so that's fun. This can also apply to LGBTQ+ when it comes to getting other points and stuff. Okay, and now this is Bruja Born. This is the second book in the series, and it follows the older sister of the main character of Labyrinth Lost. So basically, the main character tries to bring her boyfriend back to life, and in doing so, she messes up the balance between life and death and has to work to put it back together in order to save her life and the city of New York, and I think the entire world. It's a bit fuzzy now. So I think I like this book more than I like Labyrinth Lost, but I could not tell you. I just got more attached to the characters. There's this struggle between wanting to use your power to do this thing and knowing it's wrong and knowing that it could cause a lot of damage that no one is going to support you is, I think, a lot more compelling to me than the struggle we see in the first book. So I think that's the most of the reason I liked it more. The writing is the same quality, the plotting is the same quality. I just think the themes are a bit more compelling to me than in the first book. This can apply also to mental health rep, as the main character is struggling with depression throughout the entire book. And I think PTSD, but I could be wrong about that one. Okay, our next recommendation is Legend Born by Tracy Deonn. It is a YA contemporary fantasy Do not ask me the difference between a contemporary fantasy and an urban fantasy. I cannot tell you, but I feel it. I feel the difference intimately. This is about a grieving teen attending a early college program. I forgot an and in there. It's supposed to say a grieving teen. No, I have the wrong tense. A grieving teen attending an early college program is pulled into an Arthurian secret society. That is the best description I can give of that book. It is a fun read. So it does deal with heavier stuff. It deals with the loss of a parent, it deals with depression, it deals with generational trauma, it deals with racism, it deals with colonialism, and it deals with the legacy of slavery. So, yeah. It deals with all that heavy stuff, but it is very much still an adventure. It is an adventure that does not shy away from the more horrible element of the real world, and it's all the stronger for that. This is a bigger book. I cannot tell you the page count off the top of my head, but I think the audiobook was about 12 hours long, which isn't that long, but was long enough. It is a longer read, I think, compared to most YA, but it is by no means a slow read. I read this book in one night, and I could not put it down. I was pulled into the world, and it didn't let me go until days after I finished reading the book. It also has incredibly compelling characters and amazing relationships and dynamics between them. I think you're noticing a theme in what I like about books, and that is characters and relationships, because I am a character-driven reader. This can also apply to LGBT+, because one of the main characters is bi, I believe. It is also Tracy Deonn's debut, meaning I forgot to put this in the other video too. And it has mental health rep, as the main character is dealing with depression, grief, and complex PTSD, or what might become it. Okay, and our next rec is The Wicker King by K. Eingram. This is a contemporary fantasy, and it is about a young man who watches his best friend be pulled into a fantasy. Did I record this? No, I don't think I recorded this. I swear I pitched this, though. It is about a young man who watches his best friend be pulled into a fantasy world that he does not know if it is real, a tangible thing, or if it is a figment of his friend's imagination, but nonetheless, he helps his friend out and tries to keep him safe. Boy, this book is emotional. It is an incredibly emotional read. This book was also in the other video. That's why I remember pitching this. I don't have a good memory, guys. I'm very sorry about that. So, it is a emotional read. It is heart-wrenching, and I cried so much when reading this book. But that happens because you care so much about the characters, because these characters are so I can't say the word. I also cannot put it on screen because I'm not editing this video. Very sorry. They're crafted with such detail and such precision that it is impossible not to think of them as real people, and that really worked to pull me into the story, in addition to seeing these characters and how they deal with their relationships and the complex ways that they interact with each other and interact with the world around them, both real and potentially imagined. This applies to LGBT+. It is the author's debut. Forgot to edit this one too. It can apply to the team colors for epic and high, and it is a host favorite, and it also deals with mental health. So this one checks off a lot of the boxes. So if you're looking to get a lot of points early on, I highly recommend checking this one out. I don't know why my mouse moved, but it did. Next up, we have The Way to the Stars by Eingram. This is her sophomore novel. It is a YA contemporary sci-fi. This book is hard to categorize genre-wise. It is very much rooted in a contemporary setting, but it does deal with sci-fi elements and sci-fi themes. So if you are a sci-fi reader, I think you might like this book, but I'm not sure. But it is about a young woman who is obsessed with space, falling in love with a young woman whose mom left her to go to space. And it deals with their complex relationship, but also the relationship that the first young woman has with her family and her friends, in addition to just the second young woman, Alexandria's relationship with her dad and her not obsession, but her desire to finally get a message from her mom. It is an even more emotional read than The Wicker King. It has wrecked me. Honestly, I cried for so long when I was reading this book and after, and even now thinking about it, I still want to cry. It is just such an intensely emotional book with such intensely well-written characters. That sentence didn't make sense, but you know what I mean. Like, you get the gist of what I'm saying, and I would recommend this book to anyone. I highly recommend reading The Wicker King before you pick this book up, but, you know, if you want to read this one first, go ahead. Just know that some of the stuff in it isn't going to have the emotional weight that it would have if you read this before you read The Wicker King, because there are like some cameos from the first book because they take place in the same universe, in the same town, but The Way to the Stars takes place in a more contemporary setting, if not a bit more in the present, and The Wicker King takes place in the 80s or 90s. This can apply to LGBTQ+, and I'm going to say it can apply to mental health rep. I forgot to add it to the slide, but thinking about the book, I really, truly think it can apply to mental health rep, even if there's none specifically stated like there is in The Wicker King. Oh, also this applies to Comrades of Chaos. I forgot to say that. Next we have The Good Luck Girls by Charlotte Nicole Davis. This is a YA Western about two sisters who are sold into this system called good luck houses, where they are essentially sexual slaves. And it's about their escaping that life after the younger sister accidentally murders one of the clients on the first night she is supposed to be a good luck girl. They escape with two friends and someone they have an adversary relationship with. Okay. This is not one of my favorite books. I know I said that before, but like, this isn't one of my favorite books, but I do think it is an incredibly well-written book. I think it is a book that handles the topics and themes it decides to handle with a lot of care and respect, and I think it is, while not a fun read, a read that is important and engaging and that you should check out. This applies to LGBT+, as the author is non-binary and a few of the side characters are sapphic. It is also the author's debut, and it can work for the team colors for Comrades of Chaos. Next, we have The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson. Again, this is for the Comrades of Chaos. It is an adult sci-fi, and it is about a woman named Kara who can travel between worlds, and she can travel between the most worlds out of anyone else, and that is because you cannot travel to worlds where you have a doppelganger alive, and she is alive. She is not alive. She is dead in more worlds than most people. This is, for me, I read it as an allegory for classism and racism and imperialism, but you can read it as you want. But it follows Kara as she deals with a conspiracy, as she uncovers a conspiracy and tries to save the multiverse. I love this book so much. It's one of my favorite books. So the cover I have on screen is not my favorite cover, not color. I have the UK cover. I just could not find an image of the UK cover to use, but look up the UK cover. It's beautiful, and the book is amazing. I have not stopped thinking about this book since I picked it up. This can apply to LGBT plus, as there is a sapphic relationship in the book, and one of the main the main character is bi, and then it can apply for team colors. This one I think I did since the Comrades of Chaos color, too many C's, is a like light pinkish color. I think that's what I did with like the oranges here, but your mileage may vary. And then yeah, that's what I did. Okay, those are the recs I have for this video. It has somehow ended up being even longer, despite the fact that I intended for these to be like quick 5-minute things, but they are what they are, and I will see you guys in the next one. Okay, we're gonna be awkward again. Very sorry about this. My mouse turned off.